am so happy to have everyone here to join us today talking about writing in the age of AI, professional writing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you all can hear me. Let me share my screen. We're going to start with a poll. Thank you all for coming. And my name is Elizabeth Macdonald, and I have been a career coach with Baobab for several years now, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years. Very, very happy to be here, and love doing these webinars, love being able to connect with you all here. We're going to start with a poll, and we're going to start with a poll, and hold on, I got to see how I can get my poll. Hold on. There we go. There's our poll. Our first question, do you use ChatGPT in writing? Do you use ChatGPT in writing? I hope you all can see my screen. Let me pull up our chat. Super. All righty. So happy to have you all here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So welcome, welcome. So we're getting a mix of answers with some yes and some no. If you could add into the chat, so do you use it in writing? Are you all familiar with ChatGPT? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And I think just about everyone has answered. Super. So let me end poll and share results. So more people have used it than not, but many of you have never used it. So I hope that today, by the end of our session today, you'll have a better understanding of what AI is, what ChatGPT is, what it can do and what it cannot do. We're going to talk about what is the landscape of ChatGPT, looking at who is using it, what do they use it for, and what are some perceived risks. We're going to look at some sample policy guidelines. Thank you so much for Oluwatobi. Thank you so much. Mohammed says, yeah, sometimes he uses it. We're going to look at some general guidelines to help you use it to the best of, to use it to really get the most out of it. As we go along, if you have any questions, go ahead. You can, so there are two ways you can interact with us during the webinar. You can put comments and questions in chat. Sometimes I'll ask you to put things into chat. At the end of this session, we'll also have a Q&A session where you'll be able to ask specific questions. All right, and with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So AI stands for artificial intelligence, and it's these large language models. There's ChatGPT, Bing, Notion AI. There are many, many others. ChatGPT is one of the most common ones. And if you've never used it before and you don't know how to, you can access it through the URL openai.com. And let me just say as a comment, so we're not, but the purpose of the presentation is to present the facts for you for what we know about ChatGPT, how it's being used, how it can be used well, how it can maybe not be used well. We're not advocating its use. We're just sharing with you information about what it is and what it's capable of. All right? So ChatGPT is one of the biggest ones, right? And we're going to tell you a little bit about it. So it stands for, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, real technical name, GPT. It's a large language model, a chatbot developed by a company called OpenAI based out of San Francisco. And what they did was they trained a large amount of data pulled from the internet to respond to questions and written prompts in a conversational tone. It was made available for free to the public in November 2022. And it takes in current conversations. It forms a probability for all the words in its vocabulary given that conversation. and then chooses which one of them as the likely next word. That's really how it works. And when you use ChatGPT, it can seem like you're talking to a person. It can seem like it has a life of its own. And so what I'd like to do is kind of dive into another large language model to show you kind of at a very foundational level how it works. So we're going to look at something that's called the Corpus of Contemporary American English. It was developed out of Brigham Young University in Utah. It's a database of 1 billion words, and it looks at patterns of use, and it looks at frequently paired words, which we call collocates, and it looks at the context in which the words are used. ChatGPT does very similar things. The 8 different contexts are newspapers, popular magazines, academia, news, blogs, spoken English, fiction, and TV and movie subtitles. So I'm going to demonstrate for you what it does. So I'm going to switch screens, and I'm going to come to, sorry about this one, I'm going to come to my corpus. So Corpus of Contemporary American English. I have if you're interested in signing up for it, it's free. I have information on what it is. But it's basically just this large list of words. So I can put in here, for example, the word effects. And I'm going to go find matching strings. And so when I do, it pulls up 92,000 times where it found the word effects. I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at section so that it'll tell me where it's used. So if we look, we can see the context: blog, web, TV, spoken fiction, magazines, right? We can see how it's used. It's used most commonly in uh, maybe blogs. It's most common. Academically, it's used very commonly. Another thing you can do with the search, and this is what ChatGPT does, is I can have it do an adjective and then effects. There we go. And I'm going to go find matching strings. And you can see it brings up all these different adjectives that are used with effects. And that's all that ChatGPT does. It does the same thing. And you can see how it's used in different contexts, like academic. These are very, very common. You can see things that are more commonly used in spoken, right? So that's an example of what ChatGPT really, really does. Let's come back to our PowerPoint, right? So same thing in the context. I have another example here. We have the word awesome. I'm so sorry. So let me know if the audio is working or not. Let me know if you can hear me. You all should be able to hear me. And if you're interested in diving in and using this, the link is there for you. I have instructions on how to get in. We have the word awesome, right? Awesome is a more conversational word, right? Look, it's used more in blogs, 9,902 times, and academically only 350, right? So with ChatGPT, it does the same thing, right? Here's the information here. If you'd like to investigate this further for you, I have the information, and I have 2 really helpful tutorials if you're curious. I use it a lot. So ChatGPT, it does the same thing. And what can it do? It can engage in human-like conversations on a wide range of topics. It can generate text based on prompts or questions, such as writing prompts or product descriptions or news articles. It can summarize long texts or documents. I read an article about how CEOs are using ChatGPT, and one CEO is using it so when there are long articles that people recommend he read, he puts the article in ChatGPT and asks to give him a summary of it. It can do translation. It can answer questions, retrieving information from a knowledge base or the internet. And it can apparently do some fill out forms and writing emails. That I confess I have not tried. But I want to show you an example. So I put in and I said to ChatGPT, I said, please rephrase in more academic language that I had a really awesome summer internship. And we saw awesome is not usually used in academic writing or professional writing. So ChatGPT came back with this one, right? So during the summer, I engaged in a highly enriching internship experience characterized by its exceptional quality and noteworthy aspects. Very high level language, right? Right? Almost like someone with a PhD. And to show you what it does, I said, oh, rephrase it and make it even more academic sounding. And so it uses words like partook, internship, endeavor, right? So it's using really high level context vocabulary. And then I said, hey, rephrase it and make it sound more conversational. And there we have, oh, it's an amazing summer internship. It was top notch and had some, right? That's all ChatGPT does. It looks for synonyms and collocations and plays around with different contexts. So it's patterns of words that commonly occur together. It looks at context and it has machine learning, right? So it does sort of learn. But it has some limitations. It has some limitations. ChatGPT does not actually think. It's not consciously aware of the answers it provides. It just predicts and imitates. Um, that you read some crazy stories where this one guy was using ChatGPT and he sort of fell in love with it, and the ChatGPT told him he needed to divorce his wife, and just crazy. No, it's not consciously aware. There's no accurate knowledge of current events since January 2022. So if you ask who's going to win the 2024 presidential race in the US, they're not going to be able to tell you. Sometimes it can come up with fake facts, and that's called hallucinating, right? So it's not always accurate. And lastly, in order to get good information from it, you have to have a good quality prompt. You have to have a good quality prompt. Good. And hey, we have a question from Audrey. Audrey, I just peeked. She asks, is it true that there's a way to detect if an article is AI written or not? Hold on to that question because we're going to look at that in just a moment. It's a really good question. So before we get into that, so it doesn't have all the answers, and it all depends on how you ask the question. So playing with it, I thought, and I encourage all of you to do this. I asked it about something that I know a lot about, but I thought maybe ChatGPT doesn't know a lot about. So for 2 years, I lived in a city called Cagabandaro, and so I asked it, what can you tell me about Cagabandaro? Couldn't tell me, had no information. When I reworded it, it said, where is Cagabandra located? It was able to tell me that it's in the Central African Republic, but it didn't give me any other information. So it's an example of, well, if what you get out of it, it depends on the quality of your question or what they call your prompt. All right. So that's ChatGPT. Let's shift and look at who's using it, right? Who are the users? According to the latest data, ChatGPT currently has around 180.5 million users. The website has generated 1.7 billion visits in November 2023. And according to Sam Altman, the chief, 100 million weekly users flock to ChatGPT. Give me a sign. Give me like a thumbs up if you think that is just unbelievable. Like unbelievable. Oh my God. Right? Unbelievable. So many users. It's such a big part of our world now. Yeah, thank you, Janet. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. So I was curious about these people. Who are these people? So I looked at some demographics and I found that here are the demographics by age and gender. It's interesting. Look at this one. So more men use it than women. Why is that? I have no idea. I have no idea. I know so many people. More men than women use it. Twice as many men use it as women. And the biggest age group, not surprisingly, is 25 to 34. Interesting. Interesting. And this is from Statista. I like Statista very much. So my next question is, what do they do? What are they doing with AI? How are they using it? And we found in a survey of Australia, India, United Kingdom, and United States. I couldn't find data on any African nations. 75% use it to write work communication, 65% to synthesize meeting notes, and 75% to automate tasks at work. And that's our generative AI, not necessarily ChatGPT. Looking at another research that I thought was really, really interesting. Mustafa, thank you. Can I use ChatGPT in an exam? No, you can't. We'll get to that in a moment. No, you can't. Um, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So the use of generative AI, answer a question and brainstorming. These are the two most common uses of it, right? Isn't that interesting? Answering a question and brainstorming. And Jean Expert, I see your question. We'll come to it. It's a good one. It's a good question. You guys are asking good questions because the next one is, what are the risks? You guys are asking good questions. We'll come back to it. So what are the risks? Here's some other research from Statista. I'm gonna scroll code to this one so you guys can see it a little better. Interesting. So organization considers risk relevant. That's our light blue. And our black is organization working to mitigate risk. And the number one concern is inaccuracy, right? It's not necessarily accurate. It's not peer-reviewed content, right? So inaccuracy is a big concern. Cybersecurity, privacy issues are very, very important. Don't ever put any personal information into ChatGPT or any AI. You see, intellectual property infringement is another one. Organizational reputation, right? If people use it too much, you're going to have a bad reputation. So interesting what the risks are concerned. So what does this mean for you? What does it mean for you? And wisdom, thank you so much. I know data privacy is huge. It's such an important issue. So common types of professional writing, applications, cover letters, statement of purpose, resume, LinkedIn profile, proposals, scholarship applications, assignments, and research, right? If there are any other types of writing you can think of, you can put it into chat. And I do see your chat thing. These are good ones. We're going to come back to them. So this is from a LinkedIn bio that I found from one of my students. Tell me, is this written by AI or human? What do you think? Can you put it in? Can you put it in chat? Do you think this is written by a human or AI? What do you think? I'm a graduate teaching assistant where I'm pursuing my master's degree in computer science. I'm passionate about limitless possibilities that technology offers to transform our world and empower people. As a teaching assistant, I collaborate with professors and fellow TAs to help. You guys are so funny. Oh my God. You guys are all saying AI. Oh my gosh. You guys are right. You're right. It is 100% written by ChatGPT. How did you know? How did you know? You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. How did you know? And you guys, I'm going to tell you, I cheated on this one. I asked ChatGPT, I said, how can you tell if text was written by AI? And this is what ChatGPT came out. Right, it's the language. There's unusual phrasing or syntax. There's a lack of personal touch. It's often like general, common sentences and buzzwords. We can tell, we can tell. So, right, so when he says, I'm passionate about limitless possibilities, blah. Like, oh my God, it's so vague in general, but it's meant to impress us. Good. Transitional words are common in ChatGPT. It's true. I enjoy sharing my knowledge and facilitating. Oh my God, it just makes you just want to vomit because it doesn't say anything, but it's trying to impress us, right? So we can always tell. Here's another one. Do you think this was written by human or AI? And I will say the previous one is a real person too. It was my actual student. What do you think for this one, human or AI? Isaac says human. Any other thoughts on this? Human, 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 human. Oh, Noah says AI. Oh, now some people are saying AI. Human. Oh my gosh. Why do you guys think this one's human? A blend? I know, Kweku, you're right. People often blend it. You guys, this is 100% AI. I just went into ChatGPT and I said, write me a profile description of a hypothetical working professional from Uganda, right? So this is actually all, we had these words like forging partnerships, charismatic advocate, prestigious conference, right? This is the type of AI language that when we see it, we immediately know, like you didn't write it, right? So you have to be really careful if you're using, and we're going to talk about this. I know, Mohammed, you're so funny. I know you're all doomed. Oh my gosh. So let me ask you, I'd like to do another poll. Does your school or workplace have a policy regarding ChatGPT? And this is interesting because we saw the question about like using ChatGPT in exams or in high school. Does your, and I don't know, I'm going to need Angela's help. I don't know if Angela has a poll for this or if I can do the poll. Let's see. Oh, I think I can do it. Hold on, go back. Yes, policy. There we go. Launch. All right. Does your school or workplace have a policy about using ChatGPT? Wow, you guys, this is so interesting. So interesting. Oh my gosh. Many of them do. That is wonderful. Wow, so interesting. Some know, so I'll share your results. So about 2/3 of you do. We're sharing results. Hikmat. Good, good. So we see that. I don't know what that is. Sangdemi Sani. I don't know. I don't know what that is. But we're going to take a look at it. We're going to take a look at, did I share results? Here we go. And stop sharing. All right. So we're going to take a look at a sample policy. It's from the University of Cambridge. And so in preparing for this webinar, I looked at a lot of schools to see what their policies were, and this was the one I liked the most. I thought it was the simplest, and also like the most comprehensive. And so they had 3 guidelines. And Paulette Edward, does that mean people or person cannot write smart or intelligent? What an interesting question. So ChatGPT doesn't do critical thinking. All it does is imitation. And you can write smart or intelligent, but let me come back. Let me come back to Paulette. Let me come back to your question. So it's unusual phrasing or syntax. So it's syntax that we don't usually It's language we don't usually say, right? Like prestigious, I don't know, right? It's language we don't normally say, like prestigious conferences. Accolades is such a high level word. We don't often use it. Oftentimes in professional writing, our goal in professional writing is communication, which often means more simple language that easily and readily communicates our message, right? And then, so thinking about your question, Poland. So number two, the lack of personal touch. It'll often be very general, right? There won't really be specifics. And then the writing style, it comes across as being robotic. And once, like at first I thought, well, can I really tell what is written by AI? I can. There's a tone and style to it that is neutral, robotic, boring. So yes, of course people can write smart and intelligent, and that's why we can tell the difference between AI and human written text, right? Um, let me let me come back to my presentation. They're good points. What is a ChatGPT importance for studies at university at the time of the assignment? Oh, Mustafa, it's questions that we instructors are dealing with. It changes our role a little bit. It changes our role, but let's come look at what they do. So they say you can use text generator to help research a topic. So you can use it like you use Wikipedia, right? If you're starting to do research on a topic and you're like, boy, I don't know a lot about it. Let me see, right? It can give you like breadcrumbs about what you should be looking for. So that's one guideline. Number two, you can use it to spark inspiration. If you have writer's block or you're struggling for time or on what to write, ChatGPT is great. It's absolutely wonderful. So, for example, here, if a social media manager is looking for ideas on how to engage alumni on Instagram, they can ask for suggestions and it'll give you suggestions. These are good questions. We're going to come back into them. You guys are asking good questions in chat. We're going to come to them. These are really, really good questions. Let me quickly finish this one. We do not publish any content that is written 100% by text generators, right? So be very careful of the copy and paste function with ChatGPT, because we'll know. We'll know. There's a default written style and tone of content that's usually not appropriate for audiences. It doesn't produce neutral answers because it's drawing from things that have already been created. There's a high risk of plagiarism. And so for this reason, they will not publish anything created with AI. Good. And so coming back to this graph of like how people in the US are using it, the top two, answering a question and brainstorming, not necessarily writing. It can help with automating routine tasks, but anything that involves critical thinking, you wouldn't want to do. So examples of brainstorming. Here are some examples of how I have used it a lot. So what are the three most common questions on graduate school applications? Interesting, right? What are the three most common questions on graduate? Do you want to see the answer? Shall I show you the answer to that? The three most common questions on graduate schools: why should we accept you? What do you want to study? I use it. I do a lot of resume coaching. And so sometimes I'll be working with someone who's in a new field that I'm not as familiar with. And this one woman, she wanted to shift from working public health to project management. And so I asked, what are the primary responsibilities of someone working as a project manager? And he gave me 6 categories. I had the 4, but I was missing 2. So it helped me with that. Another example of how I've used it in brainstorming, I pasted in workshop sessions for a workshop I had planned, and I asked AI to give me some titles. It was great, super helpful, super, super helpful. So general guidelines, do use it as a brainstorming tool. It makes routine tasks easier. You need to use the right questions, create good prompts, and it helps with writing block. Don't expect it to do critical thinking. Don't ever copy and paste anything we can tell. Don't use it as an editing tool. Use it as use Grammarly instead. If you want to know more about editing tools, you can watch the previous webinar that we gave about AI and writing. As an experiment, I pasted into ChatGPT one of my students' essays, and I asked it for suggestions for how to improve the essay. And I completely disagreed with all the things it came back with. So I don't like it as an editing tool at all. And you guys, someone in chat had said this, right? Don't put any personal information into it. Severe privacy risks. So we had some questions in advance. Let's answer these questions first, and then let's come to the questions in chat. We had a question in advance. They emailed this to us, and they asked, she'd like to know the level of acceptability of AI usage in academic writing for research papers. For instance, I prepared my manuscript from my thesis. Then upon review from my colleague, I realized that I had some language clarity issues. Then I decided to review the manuscript with ChatGPT, if this is acceptable. And what do you guys think? Actually, let me ask you guys, put in ChatGPT based on, sorry, put in the chat, ChatGPT. Put in the chat, what do you think? What would you tell her based on what we've seen so far? What would you tell her? Do you think it's acceptable? Audrey says yes. So she did write it. Oh my God, you guys. She did write it. Paulette says yes. So my answer is no. No, don't do it. No, don't do it. Because what will happen is you'll have parts of your research that will sound like ChatGPT, and the people reviewing it will think that you wrote the whole thing with ChatGPT. If you need an editing tool, use Grammarly. Grammarly is wonderful, and Grammarly enhances your own writing, and it helps you understand what needs to be edited and improved. It doesn't replace it with this artificial language. You're right, oh my God, your name is hard to pronounce, but yes, ChatGPT will entirely change it. I was working with a client. He was applying for a project management certification. We worked on his essay. He had to answer 6 or 7 different questions. And he got nervous at the end and he thought, oh, maybe my English isn't good enough. And he put it through ChatGPT and it just ruined it. It made it seem like he didn't write it when he actually did. So there's one question. We're going to come to another one. What are safe ways of leveraging tools like ChatGPT in writing? I've been writing my personal statements and requesting to make them more coherent, readable, and fluid. Blah. Yes, it poses risk. Don't do it. You can ask ChatGPT, you could ask ChatGPT to show you what is like a template, like what are the parts that are necessary in a personal statement, but you need to write it yourself, right? You need to write it yourself. Again, any editing, use Grammarly. Grammarly is so much better. ChatGPT is too risky. It's too risky. So we've looked at what is AI, what is ChatGPT, who's using it, what are the risks, policy implications, and recommendations. Let's come to your questions. And if you want to read more about this, our wonderful Angela, who's helping facilitate this, she's taking a course and they're reading prediction machines. And we have this here. If you're interested in learning more about this topic, she said it's a great book. So let's go to Q&A. I'm going to stop share and let's, so let me go first to like the official Q&A. Is there a way to detect if an article is AI written or not? Yes, there is a way. There are, and someone in the chat talked about it. It's called QuiltBot is one. There are a lot of AI detectors, and they can tell you, they're not always accurate, but they can give you a sense of if something was written by AI or not. Um, Thank you, Paulinus. Yes, Zero GPT is an AI detector. Quiltbot is another one where it'll actually change what you wrote so that it can't be detected by AI. And I probably shouldn't be telling you that, but it's just crazy. It's just a crazy landscape. But I think you want to be ethical. You want to be ethical. And I'm going to come back to our questions and see if we've answered them. Can I use ChatGPT in an exam? No, you can't. You can't. And I tell you, oh my gosh, you can't. I had a student where I realized he was getting the question and he was using his phone and he was sending it in phone to have ChatGPT give him the answer. And I'm like, why are you looking at your watch? He was looking at the answer on his phone. Isn't that terrible? Let's say you've written your project, ready to submit it, and you're not sure with the grammar, use Grammarly. Use Grammarly. And so Jean Expert, you say, do you need to cite that you've used ChatGPT? If you have used it, be transparent. Let them know. Let them know. But even better, use Grammarly. Grammarly is better. High school students were asking me to teach them how to use it to write their exams. No. So what they can do is they can use ChatGPT. Let's say they're studying for the exam. They could give ChatGPT the topic and say, give me 10 possible exam questions my teacher might ask, right? So you can use it to quiz you. And in fact, that's how many instructors are using it. They're like, oh, I have to give a test tomorrow on this. Can you give me some ideas for questions I might ask? Um, so so with exams, you can't use it for writing their exams, but for studying their exams, it's super, super helpful. Wisdom at Zaho, yes, privacy and copyright issues are huge. They're huge. And so you want to know where you're getting this information from and you want to be able to cite properly. Um, Abdullah asks, he's always had a dream to write a book. How can ChatGPT help you? It can help. Oh my gosh. Uh, so in researching this webinar, oh my gosh, people are using ChatGPT for creative writing of helping them develop characters and helping them imagine what the character's dialogue might be. So Abdullah, research that. Research like ChatGPT and fiction writing and see how people are using it because it's a brainstorming. It gives you ideas. It won't write it. Don't make it write it for you, but it can give you ideas. All right, other questions. What is ChatGPT importance for studies at university time of assignments? That's from Mustafa Tija. It can help you better study. It can help you, right? That's how I would use it. What do you think are the likely, questions on this topic? But I don't know, and I guess you just got to be careful. So the key is ChatGPT is changing the role of us instructors as well, meaning that it's forcing us to shift our assessments into critical thinking, not memorization and memorize responses, because that's what ChatGPT does. So your question's interesting. It changes our role, making our exams have to be more focused on critical thinking and applying how you apply knowledge, not just giving back knowledge. Does that make sense? And then wisdom asked, does it mean using AI to enhance documents is bad? And don't use it. Use Grammarly. It's not a great tool for that. Use Grammarly. Content created to improve the whole grammar. Yeah, Grammarly is good. Grammarly's good. It won't change your text. It'll improve it, but it won't replace it and change it. Quilt Bolt, um, same dangers as ChatGPT. If it's just to provide a framework on your manuscript, then it's fine. However, exactly. Thank you so much, Kweku Boaki. I think you were talking about the writing a book. That is, I hear is a challenge. Grammarly has a tool. I don't know. I'm not so familiar. I mean, I've used Grammarly a little bit, but you would have to look. It can be detected. Yeah, we'll share the link. I don't know, Angela, can you do that? We'll also look on preparing for the job market. We'll make sure the link is there too. That's where we talked about more of the editing tools, and I also gave people editing strategies so that they don't have to be so reliant. Good. When can we tell our, what can we tell our toddlers on AI? Oh, don't use it. That's a whole nother subject about um, when you allow young children to start accessing these computer devices. Uh, that's a whole nother animal. My sister's a pediatrician and she said it's a big issue. The meeting is being recorded. Yes, we can have it to replay. Absolutely. How can we blend information? Again, remember that ChatGPT doesn't do critical thinking. You're the one that does the critical thinking. And so I don't know if it's so much blending, but you're the one that does the critical thinking. We have some other questions. How can I access your resume coaching? I think there is, see if there's a competition. I know that Baobab does competitions, and if you win, you get my resume coaching. I love resume coaching. We have a question from Nahom Fekadu. What do you think of using on our final year thesis? Don't. You can use Grammarly, but don't. It's too risky. It's too risky. When I read a paper where I can tell it's that they use ChatGPT or some, especially ChatGPT, I want to throw it in the trash. I'm like, well, I don't need to read something written by ChatGPT. You want to maintain the authenticity of your writing, and that's what ChatGPT destroys. So use Grammarly, don't use the ChatGPT. When you use ChatGPT with your own details and write an essay, yes, it will still sound like AI. Don't copy anything from ChatGPT. Just don't copy anything. Use it as brainstorming. You use it as ideas. You use it to understand what are templates. You know, if you need a template for writing something. Bonke asks a great question. What advice would you give around crafting prompts for ChatGPT? Excellent question. I think use WH questions. I think that's a key. If you ask yes, no questions, it's not great, but the WH questions are you'll get better response of what, when, why, who, how many. Can we use AI to translate text? Yes, you can. But there are a lot of different, there are a lot of different AI translation programs that are unbelievable. They're unbelievable. So if I may evaluate what you said, ChatGPT is changing the way scoring in the context that is done. Attention now paid to more. Paulinus, what a wonderful insight. I think so. I don't know if it's changing. It isn't changing so much the way of scoring. It's changing the way of creation. It's changing how we create our tests, and it makes us rethink about what we're actually testing, right? So that our tests and our prompts demand critical thinking, not just memorization. If it's just memorization, ChatGPT can do it. Wonderful, wonderful question. Couple more. Sometimes Grammarly gives you suggestions. You feel like your text is losing humor and taste. Oh my God, Marie, Pauline, Ishimwe. Yes, you're exactly right. Like I had a student say, I had them write an essay on what is the one job in the world that you would never want to do. And this one student said she would never want to be a doctor because she hates the sight of blood. And she talked about how gross it is to see blood, and it was funny and there was real humor in it. And another student wrote about how he would never want to be a high school teacher because he just can't stand high school age kids. And their essays were funny and vibrant and communicated so much about their personalities and their experiences and their feelings. And as a test, I put the question, I said, ChatGPT, give me a 5-paragraph essay on why you would never want to be a doctor. It came up with the same topics as my student, but it was so boring. There was no life to it. There was no humor. There was no emotion. There were no examples. So you're right. You're right. You'll lose the taste and the emotions and the authenticity in the writing. Um, all right. If you've, let's see, we have that good. Ellie asked, can you please plan a training on how to use ChatGPT in digital marketing? Oh my God, that's not my field. It's not my field at all. I don't know. You can ask the folks in Baobab. Um, that's not my field. That I have no idea. I just know it for writing. I think, have we gotten all of the questions? Good. We need to be aware of how AI algorithms use data, especially when it's our personal data. Yeah, be very careful of your privacy issues. Don't put any personal information in any of these these AI things. Any other questions, you guys? Thank you so much for joining us. It's been really interesting. I do have another question. So many of you have your organizations or your institutions have policies about AI. Are there any other like policy things that you want to share that your institution's doing that you think are helpful? If you do, you could maybe raise your hand. You could raise your hand or put it in chat. That was one thing. I was surprised at how many of you have policies on it. Can we use generative AI to automate tasks? Paulina's great question. So again, check with the policy of your institution. Um, One thing that I thought was interesting, a lot of people are using AI to summarize meeting minutes. They'll put in like the rough content of the meeting minutes where they took notes, and they'll ask the AI to summarize it. So I think, I don't know if Angela is still on. Angela is taking a course on it, and I know in her class they're studying it, and they're just finding replace a lot of it's going to replace a lot of jobs, and it's going to replace a lot of these jobs that have really repetitive tasks. So it's a good question. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. Let's see. Gallery. Any other questions? We have about 5 more minutes, so if anyone wants to ask a question, or we have from Jean Expert, how can you use AI to summarize your text with the exact amount of words? You tell it. Jean Expert, you tell it, you say, summarize this text in 100 words or less, or, right? You can tell it, and it can give you ideas. Is it ethical to do that? It depends on what the writing is. And John, take a look at the previous webinar I did, because I give you tips on how to be I give you tips on how to be more concise in your writing so that you yourself can do it. Um, put your ideas in ChatGPT and make it interesting. Ugh, so boring. ChatGPT doesn't know how to make things interesting. It's not what it it's not what it does. It can make it more academic. I don't know, play with it, see if it can tell you a joke. I don't know. Um, thanks for this session because my network is messing. Yes, we'll give you the link to it so you can watch it. I hope this was helpful. I really enjoyed talking with you. I asked a question, is it acceptable? Um, Yusef, I don't know if the word is acceptable. Is it reliable? Is it credible? Right? How do you know it's going to do a good job? I would use it much better to go to like someone in your professor or a colleague and you get feedback from them. You're going to get better feedback. You're not going to get great feedback, I think, from ChatGPT or an AI. Right? Remember, I said I put my student's essay and I asked it for feedback and it gave me feedback. I totally disagreed with it. Right? So if you would like a link to our presentation today, make sure that Angela has your emails so that we can share these recordings for you. I hope this was helpful. It was super interesting for me. It's a really interesting topic and it's evolving. It's evolving so quickly, so quickly. Um, that was great. That was great. Thank you all so much. I know, it's so true. It's so true. Thank you all so much. Applying for many jobs. Oh, you guys, no, don't use ChatGPT for cover letters. Don't. You guys email me. I'll give next session if you want. I'll give you the template for cover letters that works. Right? Or email me. I'll give you a good cover letter template that will help you to be completely authentic in showing your skills and strengths. Don't use ChatGPT for cover letters. Um, all right. Thank you, everyone. That was really interesting. Very good, very good. Email, I don't know. Put it, if you want me to look on the preparing for the job market in Baobab, that's where I'll put it. Look on preparing for the job market. That's where I'll put some sample cover letters that will help you. And we can also put links to this webinar and previous webinars. That's a better use of it. So it's the preparing for the job market. Angela, if she can put that into the chat so people have that, that would be great too. Do we have any other questions? Oh, sorry, Nahum said final touches on academic applications. No, don't, because it's going to make us think he wrote the whole thing with AI. Yes, we can identify paragraphs written with AI. We can tell the language is, the language, we can tell because the language becomes weird and robotic and inauthentic. And so you guys, great questions. Oh my gosh, great questions. So look on the Baobab preparing for the job market. That's where we'll put those things for you. So that will help for you. And I think Angela asked for emails. So if you want to give Angela your email, you can do that. All right. Thank you all so much.